Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celebrate Black Excellence. I'm your digital host, Carlton T. Clay. It is the holiday season, and our guest is the perfect guest to be here. I am here with personal trainer and fitness instructor, Anna Jae Fit. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge online and across the CSR. We definitely appreciate it.
You are so welcome. My pleasure.
Let's get started with your beginning. How did you get started with fitness?
Okay, so it's a long story, but I'm gonna make it short.
Okay.
So when I had my first child, I gained about 65 pounds. And I never really had a weight issue before my pregnancy, but so that really hit me really hard in terms of my confidence, not being able to fit into any of the clothes that I love to wear. And I started to really withdraw from the world and isolate because I really did not like what I saw in the mirror anymore. And I also was struggling with postpartum depression, but it was undiagnosed. I didn't know. I knew something was not right with me, but because I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the support, I wasn't really educated about it. I just thought, well, maybe this is just part of being a mom. This is new, whatever, and maybe these are normal struggles. So between the postpartum depression, not being diagnosed, me not getting the help that I really needed, and now me facing all of this extra weight, I became heavily, heavily depressed. And I kind of fell into this toxic, unhealthy cycle and pattern that many, many women probably listening to me right now, watching this can relate to. But I was like, okay, what's the quickest way to fix this? What's the quickest way for me to lose the weight and get back to feeling like me again? And so I did what so many of us have done. So it was the quick fixes. It's, hey, I'm gonna do a cleanse. I'm gonna do a salad diet. I'm gonna do the lemonade diet. I'm gonna starve myself, literally. I remember starving myself purposefully. I'm gonna abuse my body with a ton of cardio. I'm gonna do fat burning pills, you name it, right? And those cycles and those patterns continued on for many, many years. And I always found myself losing a couple pounds, but then as soon as I'd stop or quit or fall off, I just gained the weight back plus some. And it took many years for me on that vicious cycle to realize that this was really aggravating my mental health issues even more. And it was not good, not just for my metabolism and my physical health, but for my mental and emotional health. And eventually, in 2013, actually, when I moved here to the Augusta area, at the time I was married and my husband at the time was active duty. He got stationed at Fort Gordon. That's how I got here.
Okay.
I was at work one day and I had what turned out to be a major panic attack. And I never had a panic attack before, so I didn't recognize it, but really just hot, wanted to jump out of my clothes. My heart was racing, I couldn't breathe. And from that day on, I was bedridden for the next 9 months. And I became suicidal, heavily, heavily depressed. And it was just basically clinical depression, generalized anxiety, and a complete burnout, mentally, physically, emotionally. And in my path of recovery, in my journey to recovering and gaining back life and getting back to being me and the productive me that I used to be, I did a lot of research and a lot of studying. Depression cure books, you name it, from big psychiatrists, anything that I could find. And the common denominator and the theme that was repetitive in everything that I read and studied on was the importance of physical movement.
Okay.
Moving your body. And so even though at the time I was incredibly weak, I couldn't get out of bed, I stopped taking showers, doing my hair, taking care of myself, even feeding myself at that point, I understood that if I was making this commitment to regaining health, right, and getting back to being me and living my life and being productive and being the mom that I believed that I needed to be, versus actually following through with my suicidal plans that I had, then I also needed to put forth some kind of effort, even if that was going to be really hard. And so for me, it started off literally with baby steps. One day I got up, I said, I'm just going to do 10 squats. And I'm going to speak life into myself every single time. Because that was a really big element too, was my internal dialogue. I'm going to get back into my car. I hadn't driven my car in almost a year. And I'm just going to drive it around the block. And my goal was, I'm going to be able to drive it back to Gold's Gym. Now that's Max Fitness, but at the time it was Gold's. And one day I'm going to step back into Gold's and I'm just going to walk in, walk back out. And every single day I took one little tiny baby step towards me becoming fit, me becoming energized and healthy and confident again. And every single tiny step I took, I applauded myself out loud. I patted myself on the back. I spoke life into myself. I didn't care if somebody thought that I was crazy. Talking to myself. Based on the fact that I had crumbled and hit rock bottom, it couldn't get no worse than that.
Right.
So if people thought something was wrong with me, so be it. And anyways, months went by of me incrementally improving and becoming fitter. And then I managed one day to finish my workout on the treadmill, and it might have been like 30 minutes or something like that. And I was so proud of myself. And then I thought, you know what, Anna, it's time for that next step now. What's gonna be the next step? So I went and looked at the class schedule because I remember that years and years before this, I loved the group fitness element, the socialization. But because I've been so isolated and so depressed and so anxious, I also really hadn't been around people. So that was aggravating my anxiety, but at the same time, I said, hey, I need to push myself a little harder. And so I saw on the schedule Zumba.
Okay.
And this is a real moment of irony because many years before, I kept telling people, if you need to lose weight, Zumba is not the workout for you. Zumba is a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. Why do people do Zumba? Just shaking their hips for what? And I kept laughing at people for doing Zumba. I wanted to do boot camp and all these other strenuous classes. So I saw Zumba and I said, you know what? I've lost a lot of muscle mass. I'm not strong. I'm not fit. I don't have the endurance I used to have. I'm also very, shy at this point and nervous and anxious. I'm just going to start with Zumba.
Okay.
And I ended up in the back of this Zumba class in the last row. And I was like, okay, if I can just make it 5 minutes, I'm good. And every week I came back and my time extended and I stayed a little bit longer and I got a little bit stronger and a little bit more confident in myself. And my hips were moving and flowing a little bit more every single time. And before you know it, I ended up in the front row. And I knew all the instructors' moves. I knew all her choreography. I had her whole playlist at home. It became my therapy. It lit me up. It brought me back to life. And one day she was late for class. And someone asked me, hey, are you gonna sub for Shay today? And I really looked at them almost offended, like, I don't teach Zumba. Like, I'm not a fitness instructor. Why are you looking at me? But God was planting a seed. So another lady we became friends over time taking that class, she really wanted to become a Zumba instructor. But it wasn't my dream, but it was hers. So she wanted me to go with her to Atlanta for the training. I went with her to Atlanta for the training. I said, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm just doing this out of solidarity. I never want to teach Zumba. This is not my thing. We came back to Augusta, and within a week, one of the local gyms called me and said, hey, we're desperately looking for a Zumba instructor this and that day at this time. It was in South Augusta Y. And I remember looking up at the sky and saying, hey, God, I know that I was begging you to bring me back to life, and heal me mentally, emotionally, and physically. But I didn't think that meant that I was supposed to become a Zumba instructor. I didn't say all of that. But I had to keep my word because in my darkest hour and darkest time, I said, God, if you bring me out of this, whatever was meant for me to learn out of this or whatever I'm meant to do with this, I will do it. And so no resistance on my end. I did my little audition at the South Augusta Y, and within the first song, after 30 seconds, she said, okay, you start Monday.
Okay.
That's how I got into fitness.
Okay.
It just grew and it grew. So it was one class. That's how I started. Then other gyms heard about me or other members recommended me at other gyms. And then before you knew it, I was teaching at 7 different gyms in the CSRA, all the way from the Thompson Y to Fort Gordon. And then I realized that so many of the women that were attending my classes had other needs. So not just I want to move my hips and this is like my therapy time and this feels good, but they want to lose weight. They want to build muscle. They want to change their lifestyles. And as a Zumba instructor, I was very limited. So I went back to school. I got more credentials on top of more credentials on top of more credentials. And I said, I think that this is really where God was leading me in terms of my path and my mission. But in order for me to carry it out to the best of my ability, I have to have the credentials and I have to be able to do it with women one-on-one. And so that's where I am now. That's what I do. That's
Nice.
the story.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. We
You're
definitely
welcome.
appreciate it. I'm hoping that whoever's watching or listening, they're getting something from that, or they receive something from that for sure.
Yes.
How important as a personal trainer is it to create some specialties as far as your clients? Because like I said, as you mentioned, different clients have different needs. And a lot of times with personal trainers or fitness instructors, they just, like you said, limited to just one thing. How important is it for you to make like specialties when it comes to different clients?
You mean like in terms of like customizations?
Customizations, yes, absolutely.
I love that question. That's so important. The reason why I love that question so much is because based on my own experience, my own journey, and what I see, in the world that women have a tendency to do, specifically women on their weight loss and fitness journey, is, well, this worked for Susan, so that must work for me. And it's this mentality of, well, we're all kind of the same. You need to lose 20 pounds. I need to lose 20 pounds. She needs to lose 20 pounds. Well, if she's doing that, I got to do that too.
Right.
And so we have this tendency of boxing ourselves and putting ourselves in these categories, right? Because it works for them, it's going to work for me. Then when it doesn't work for you or you get yourself injured, then it's, oh, something must be wrong with me. No, the entire time something was wrong with the approach that you chose. It might have been a good fit for Susan, but it was never a good fit for you. And so that's why the work that I do one-on-one with my clients is so important, and why I believe that it is my job and my duty to customize every program for every client individually, because we are not the same. And that is okay. We need to honor who we are as individuals. And like for you, this particular workout regimen might make plenty of sense, but maybe I have no business doing that and I need to do something totally different. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when we want efficiency, we want results. All of us are busy people, so we also don't want to waste our time. So it's best to just, I'm going with exactly what it is that honors my body, my schedule, my family dynamics, my food allergies, right? And that way I know that I'm not wasting time. I'm doing all the right things by me, but then on top of that, not only do I get amazing results, but there's a sustainability key. And I think that's another piece that a lot of people miss. When you do something that's fully customized, then guess what? You can do it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
If I'm doing keto because I work for Sandra, but I'm Puerto Rican and all I want to eat is rice and beans, guess what? I won't be doing keto for long, right? So that's why like you said, the specializing and customizing and really studying and analyzing each client that I work with from head to toe is so important, because not only do they get a better experience and better results, but this becomes now their lifestyle and it becomes second nature to them. And that's what you truly want, versus this cycle that I was in and so many others have been in of lose 10 pounds, regain 20, right?
Right. How important is nutrition when it comes to fitness and exercising and just lifestyle?
Yeah. So nutrition is number one, no matter what your goals are. Even if the goals are just, well, I just want to get healthier. Exercise is great, but it's always going to be secondary. Number one is what you're putting into your body, right? So maybe you've heard this, maybe a lot of people have heard this too, but food is medicine. Food is medicine. So whatever we put into our bodies ultimately is going to, for the most part, dictate whether we're going to be dealing with chronic conditions such as diabetes, prediabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or not. The exercise is important, but it's always secondary. And when it comes to weight loss specifically, 80% of a weight loss journey is dependent on the nutrition, not the exercise. That's why you run into so many people who will tell you, I've lost 50, 60, 100 pounds, and I didn't even work out, right? Because all they focused on was making sure that they were really dialing in their nutrition and putting the right things into their bodies and eliminating what was not working for them, right? The exercise is great for cardiovascular health, for building muscle because you want to tone, for getting stronger, but it's always a secondary piece.
Got you. What advice could you give someone who may be feeling discouraged? Like I said, again, you mentioned your journey. There are many people who, again, they get on this journey of I want to lose weight and they're doing great, but then something happens and then things go left and they're getting discouraged and they're like, they want to give. I can give a testimony for me. Like this year, I said I wanted to make sure I stayed consistent with working out, going to the gym, things like that. And thank God I have gone with that. But there have been years where I've been discouraged. I would do well. Something happens and I would get discouraged and stop. What advice could you give someone who may be feeling discouraged in their weight loss journey?
I love that. And thank you for sharing your piece of that, because that's very relatable.
Yeah.
So the biggest piece of advice that I can give here is to be gentle and compassionate with yourself. So what I think happens a lot of times is that we have really good intentions. We say, okay, Monday or December 1st or January 1st, I'm going to be consistent and this is what I promise and commit to doing all year long. The reality is that we have good intentions and we're stepping into that commitment with whatever the current circumstances are. But we're not thinking, well, maybe 90 days into the new year, I lose my job, right? Of course. But those are things that are the reality of life. Like people say life is lifing. Yeah, but life is going to be lifing in 3 months and 6 months and 9 months. Life is lifing, who knows when, but it's going to be lifing, right? And so I think the biggest piece here is to say, this might be a realistic game plan for me, right? Right now, because this is the season that I'm in, or this is the work schedule that I'm working around. But I have to also have a backup plan, and I have to prepare myself for times where my schedule becomes more challenging, or the kids end up being home and it's vacation, or I'm traveling. And so basically what I'm saying here is, yeah, maybe you commit to, I'm going to be in the gym 7 days a week, right? But the problem is there's going to be a time where you cannot make it to the gym 7 days a week. What is your backup plan? And you need to be okay with utilizing your backup plan. And why do I say that? Because most people are perfectionists. Most people are perfectionists, and the real reason why they fall off and don't get back on track is because of the internal dialogue that comes with it. But I said that this year was going to be the year that I was going to drink a gallon of water every day. I was going to walk 10,000 steps per day. I was going to do this and I was going to do that. And it might have been realistic for a second, but it wasn't realistic for a whole 12 months. So being okay with, hey, on days where I can't walk my 10,000 steps because XYZ, my minimal threshold will be 5,000. And so on those days, if I just walk my 5,000 steps, I know I still fulfill my promise. I still met my commitment to myself, and I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't break that promise to myself. Versus the standards are unrealistic. That's where we start, right? And unfortunately, we can't maintain those unrealistic standards each and every single day. And so then we start to bash ourselves and guilt trip ourselves. And see, I do this every single time. And see, every time life becomes stressful, I fall completely off. Well, it's because you're trying to do 10 things and you think that you're going to do all those 10 things each and every single day.
Yeah.
I'm a weight loss coach, a nutritionist, a personal trainer, and I've been in this industry 11 years. There are many days and weeks where stuff happens and I am not like 100% following my lifestyle or my program. Sometimes I find myself eating fast food. Sometimes I skip a workout. Sometimes I don't drink my 80 ounces of water. But I have learned that is okay as long as the next day I'm showing up and I'm doing better. Or as long as today I know that I did the best with the time and the resources that I had.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that. I definitely appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Again, as I mentioned, this is the holiday season, right? So, of course, again, there's food in abundance. And as you said, the scheduling, it can be a little crazy. What advice could you give someone? How can they maintain their workout regimen, their nutrition during the holiday season?
Yes, love that. So a couple of things here. Number one, if anyone here is traveling, I'm traveling too. What I do when I'm traveling is I definitely grab like resistance bands or some light dumbbells or something along those lines. And maybe instead of working out my 30 normal minutes or 45 normal minutes, instead I do a quick 15, 20-minute workout. You can literally just pull out your phone, use any app, or just YouTube something, right? But so what I think is very important is that while you're traveling, or you're hosting and you got family visiting, whatever the case may be, is to say, hey, now is not the time for me to make it to the gym and do my regular 30-minute, hour-long workouts, but I can commit to doing a 10-minute walk every day or a 15-minute workout every single day, right? A full body weight workout, and just pull something up on YouTube. That goes a long way versus, well, I've been consistent, I've been doing everything, but then Thanksgiving came, and then I didn't do anything for a whole week, and then now I'm completely like, boop, I just lost my flow.
Yeah.
So instead of still doing something, but reducing the intensity and just being more compassionate with yourself in terms of time. That's the big one. The second one, when it comes to the food, is important. So a lot of people are afraid of the holiday season because they think that automatically it's going to lead to weight gain. The reality is that the holiday season only leads to weight gain because people are over consuming and overindulging, right? So for me, big thing that I have learned is to only really participate in those meals and in those feasts on the day of. Versus what I used to do many, many years ago is that I would leave with 3 to-go plates. The next morning I'm eating mac and cheese. Then for lunch I'm eating, some more mac and cheese and cornbread. And then I'm eating this for dinner. And then it continues on and it flows into the weekend and I'm still eating the red velvet cake, right? And so to think really and to be intentional with, I'm enjoying my Thanksgiving dinner, right? Or my Christmas dinner or my New Year's dinner. But that's that dinner. But then the next day I go on about my business. We really set ourselves up for failure when we're leaving with 4, 5, 6 to-go plates, the entire German chocolate cake that your grandma made and she don't want to keep it at the house and all that other stuff. I'm one of those now. Do not send your leftovers with me.
Got you.
Give them to somebody else. I don't want them in my house.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. Like I said, I've seen your what you've been doing online. Like I said, we see the results First of all, thank you again for what you're doing in this community. We definitely appreciate it. What does that do for you when you see people, their lives are changing because of the things that you're teaching them? What does that do for you?
Oof, I wasn't ready for this question. Oh, I like it. It is incredibly fulfilling, and empowering for me. But what fulfills me the most is the fact that about 95% of my clients are mothers, right? And it's the long-term impact. It's the long-term impact on our community because it starts and it ends with us. And what do I mean by that? So most of my clients are African American women, right? And as minority women, we're coming from a culture and a background that does not value health. Like when I was on my journey, most of the people in my family were like, "But you going to the gym again? But for what? You're not gonna have nothing left if you keep on like this. No one's gonna want you. You ain't gonna have no curves. I mean, you name it, right?" Or every family function, I got berated because I decided that I no longer was eating all these other things. So it ends with us. It has to end with us at some point, that we do not continue to pass on some of our really unhealthy habits that are tied to our culture, right? And that we stop with I'm diabetic, so my kid's gonna be diabetic, and my grandkid's gonna be diabetic. I come from an entire family and lineage of diabetics. And I said, it stops with me, right? I can't pass that on to my children. Like, enough is enough already. So for me, every single time I see a client's before and after picture, or I get a message from a client that's like, "Oh my God, my husband is finally on board. He started to get the groceries and he's changing how he eat. He's even doing the workouts with me." I'm like, oh my goodness, another household that's been positively impacted and affected. These are another set of children, right? Another generation that's going to be absorbing something new from us as their mothers, right? And we're breaking these patterns. We're letting go of those shackles, right? So for me, it's so fulfilling because the work that I do goes way beyond it's just about me or it's just about that client. No, it's about literally breaking free from generational cycles of obesity, of diseases, and of poverty. Because we're going to continue to be poor as long as we're in poor health. We start picking up weights, we start doing push-ups, we start feeling ourselves, we start having confidence, we start putting our foot down, we start setting boundaries, we become healthier, we are productive, we can run businesses. So it runs really, really deep. As a community, if we can get our health together, we are going to be unstoppable. So for me, it's like it starts with us, and the bad cycles, generational cycles, they end with us. So that is why this work to me is so powerful and so fulfilling.
Yes, thank you so much for that. We definitely appreciate it. Now, if people want to know more about you, or they want to get in contact with you, to work with you, how can they do so?
Yes, absolutely. So they can either go to my website, which is www.annajfit.com. They can find me on TikTok. They can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, Anna Jae Fit. I'm very easy to find. Nice. And I'm very approachable. So just send me a message, whatever questions, tips, pointers, whatever it may be. This is what I live for. So for anyone who has questions or needs any support at all, I'm there.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your knowledge. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. All right, everyone. I'm Carlton T. Clay. This is Celebrate Black Excellence, where we celebrate Black excellence every day. Have a good one.